McAllister still going strongly in the closing minutes. Great run by Kevin McAllister! What a goal that is! Delivery's good, there's Hagan. Now McDonald, he scored!
It's Stokes on a hat-trick! Goal number 3 for Anthony Stokes.
Ralston saw off Robertson and delivered! Siddle scores! That's the goal! That's the moment! Samuel off and running again. Is it going to be the hat-trick? You know it is.
This is Falkirk Daft.
It is squeaky bum time once again. It's for the first time in a long time. Falkirk at the precipice of promotion playoffs. Failure is unthinkable. Victory is absolutely everything, ahead of 2 huge games this week against Airdrie. This is Falkirk Daft. My name's John McAnally. I've not got Ross Swain with me this week. He couldn't make it, but I have got a more than appropriate substitute. In fact, he's a better substitute than Matthew Wright. From Falkirk Television, an award winner nonetheless, it is Lewis Connelly.
Good to be back, fella. Good to be back. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations, first of all, Lewis, picking up Outstanding Contribution Award at the Falkirk FC and Foundation Recognition Awards night last week. Did that come a bit of a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was very unexpected. Didn't see it coming at all. And suddenly they started talking about, Falkirk TV's been a big part, and it's some of the guys at the table, like Brad Mackay and Cal Morris, are going, you might want to pay attention to this. And I kind of turned round. But no, very, very surprised, but very grateful. Needless to say, they asked me not to make a speech so that everyone could get home by 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, that is understandable. I saw what you did on Facebook. And no, well done, mate. It's absolutely well deserved. And obviously the other winners as well. So, I mean, the names which you'll just ring off. Carol Buchanan got a special recognition award. Carol worked tirelessly in that shop and behind the scenes. And of course, Lifetime Achievement Award went to Sarah Scott, the one and only. The Junior Bairns, she just I can't say that word. Epitomises everything to do with the Junior Bairns, and Sarah Scott well deserved of the award. How was the night itself?
It was good. It was a good night, to be honest with you. And as you say, Sarah especially, long overdue, well worthy winners, all of them. But Sarah in particular, I mean, you're talking 35 years, 40 years, something like that. It's incredible. I was
growing up crying out loud,
she was very emotional on the night, but she really deserved it. I think she realised in the end why Crawford Bapty was there, who She thought Craw was there just as a kind of friend of hers. But Craw had been asked along to give her the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And you were saying you were on Cal Morris and Brad Mackay at your table?
That's right. I sponsored Brad's away jersey this year. And Cal was the other player that happened to be at our table, so it was a good laugh, good banter. The guys were, a few wee stories and that. They're always good and down to earth. Sometimes the fans maybe don't always get interaction with players, so it was a good night, and the fans seemed to really enjoy it.
No, absolutely, cracking it. I'm gutted I couldn't make it myself. I was down in London town at a different awards ceremony for the Radios Awards. But no, it was great to see, and I'm gutted I missed out. I'd love to have. I've chatted away to the team and what have you. Another big thing coming up, actually, Lewis, shout out to the Bairns Business Club. They're doing their lunch on the 26th of May. Tam Cowan's going to be doing a bit there. Stuart Kennedy, former Falkirk legend, he's going to be there as well, doing a bit of chat. It's at the Lee Park. Tickets on sale now. It's always a good day out, so if you fancy that, it's the Bairns Business Club. That happens on the 26th of May at the Lee Park. Will you be going yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to try and get some time off in the afternoon if I can. The boss is usually quite understanding, so if I have to take my lunch hour a wee bit later and work the rest of the time back, then hopefully I'll make it.
Aye, definitely. Just a couple of bits and bobs as well. You mentioned Crawford Bapty there being at the Recognition Awards. I've seen a brilliant T-shirt. Football Stadium prints to this T-shirt. I don't know if you've seen it, Lewis. It's just a picture of it's Croft's face. It just says Bapty underneath it. It's got that brilliant design. The old Beezer Homes strip behind them. Oh, it's an absolute belter of a T-shirt. So shout out to Football Stadium prints. I mean, obviously nothing to do with the club, but it's a belter of a T-shirt, and I will be purchasing one for myself.
Do you know, I was saying that to the players at the time. I says, Craw, he could play a bit. He really could, and he could play in so many positions. That was the thing. He was so versatile. Like anywhere right down the spine of the team, he would give it a go. But to this day, he's one of like the 3 or 4 hardest boys I've seen in a Falkirk jersey. And I tell you what, seeing him up close and chatting to him, he looks like he could still play. He really does.
I know he does. He looks really young still, doesn't he? He still looks like he's. I mean, what age is Crawford now? He must be late 50s, is he?
Oh, easy, aye. I'd guess 58, 59.
Yeah,
Don't know if he's hit the big. I don't think he's hit the big 6-0 yet, but I'd imagine it can't be too far away. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice there.
Yeah. No, a top player, and that's a top T-shirt as well. Just shout out as well, what we're doing that is the big tournament happened down at the stadium yesterday, and it's Gary Hill. They raised about just over $1,000. It was Darren Baird put up on the Coming New Bairns Facebook page saying massive thanks to everyone to came out to support the tournament today, from players, volunteers and spectators, and obviously for Falkirk for giving the pitch over as well. They made over £1,000, and well done to Michael Anderson and his team for winning the tournament. It just says being Falkirk clearly is fucking special. So that's great. They've obviously raised a whole load of money in Gary's name down at the stadium. We were meant to be playing. I don't know what happened. We were meant to have a Falkirk Daft team, but I think that's went by the wayside somewhere. We could have had you on the sticks, Lewis, for that one. But
well, I hope it wasn't a full sizers, otherwise I'd be struggling straight away.
But well done to everyone who got involved in that. Great work down there at the stadium on Sunday. Obviously, it's getting to that point in the season. I mean, we're still got 2, potentially 4 games to go of this season. But I noticed yesterday Dunfermline started releasing, and I think you'll see this over the next couple of days. Yeah. Teams starting to release players. Todorov and Kevin O'Hara released from Dunfermline. Interesting. Would you take any at Falkirk, Lewis?
I think, of course, both the guys have been here before.
Yeah,
we actually did try to bring Kev back previously. I don't think it was ever made public, but when Big Lee and Cracks were the management team, they actively tried to sign him. It's just Dunfermline made him a very, very good offer that he couldn't refuse the wages they were doing.
Yeah.
I think Kev, if he could, now I think he's now over his knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
He's one that they'll no doubt be aware of and have a look at. Certainly at Alloway did very, very well.
Yeah.
And I look back at it, and I think it was Beardy who took the kind of ball from about a yard off the line, and and I don't mean that took it off in a bad way, but the ball looked like it was going in. I think Beardy poked it home for a yard out against one of the Old Firm, and you just think if that had gone in, it probably would have given the confidence it needed.
Yeah, I always thought that was a turning point in Kevin O'Hara's career. I mean, I guess it's ifs, buts and maybes. It depends on what league we're in. Certainly, if we're down in this league, they could be worth a look at. Certainly, I think Kevin O'Hara. Yes. But hopefully we're not. But so if you go up to the championship, are there championship style players? There's a reason Dunfermline are obviously releasing them, because they're going to free up wages and look at building their squad for the championship. So no, but it'd be interesting to see what happens to both players. I mean, Todorov, I'm surprised that he scored a lot of goals for them this season.
I think they struggled at that end of the pitch though, John. I think that's why a couple of Dunfermline fans were messaging me last night, and amongst the abuse was a wee bit of chat about the team, but they were saying, joking aside, that their strength this year was by far their defence.
Yes,
they had a really miserly defence, and in actual fact they feel they would have won the league more comfortably had they had the ability that ourselves, Airdrie, other teams did in terms of being a bit more free scoring. So I'm perhaps not surprised that Dunfermline are looking to strengthen up front overall.
Well, I mean, you look at actually, just released today, actually, is the League One Team of the Year. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Lewis, but League One Team of the Year, when you talk about that, Dennis Mehmet in goals. I mean, I don't think you can really argue with that. The amount of clean sheets that man has kept this
consistent.
And then there, right, you say, Lewis, the defence in front of them, Kyle Benedictus and Josh Edwards both make it into the League One Team here. I don't think there's a surprise there, because I think I've said in this podcast, I think if we'd signed Benedictus, we would have won the league. I genuinely think if we'd had someone of his experience, and he's a very, very good centre half. If we'd had someone like him at the back, I honestly think we'd have went on to win the league. But
don't forget the 400 penalties alone you would have had on the back. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, I mean, Josh Edwards, and again, Josh Edwards for Dunfermline is probably been the best fullback in the league.
Yeah.
Callum Fordyce for Airdrie, mate, getting in that defence, and Cammy Ballantyne as well. In midfield, it's Adam Fritzo of Airdrie, Matthew Todd of Dunfermline, and Aidan Nesbitt from the Falkirk made it in. And up front, Rudy Payton, Queen of South, Callum Gallagher of Airdrie as well, and Callum Morrison. This team was voted for by the peers and the players in the league. So it's not that as a panel or, supporters have went and done this. This has actually been voted by the players themselves. Yep. When you look down that list of names, I mean, I'm very surprised that Callum and Aidan have made it in there, to be honest with you. But
they cause teams problems constantly.
I mean, when you look at the purple patches, obviously Callum started off the season absolutely fine. He's not been great over the last couple of months. Aidan maybe again had that bit in the middle of the season where he was brilliant, and obviously had a lot of assists and stuff. I mean, very surprised to see that there's actually 4 Airdrie players in there. Not so surprising to see as many Dunfermline players in there. Craig Whiting probably missed out, maybe.
I'm going to be controversial. I don't think that's a big miss. I can see some Dunfermline fans earlier on saying they can't believe that guys like Gallagher are in ahead of Craig Whiting, and Whiting's a hard-working player. He's a decent.
Gallagher goes in just for the goals.
Exactly. Callum Gallagher is one of the most clinical strikers in this league, and I appreciate that the Dunfermline fans that were saying that were disappointed because he would want 2/3 of the team to be their own team based on the fact they have won the league, but I don't think you can really argue with Callum Gallagher being in there because the guy's absolutely clinical.
I mean, when you look at Falkirk players that should maybe come into mention, I mean, we've, like Stephen McGinn, maybe should have, but again, he had a dip in the middle of the season. Leon McCann isn't in there, I guess, because Josh Edwards is there.
He's the only other one. We said that during the week. We said that Leon would be really close to getting that left back slot, but the only one that would maybe stop him would be Edwards. And I think, again, Edwards has had such a consistent season that, taking my kind of club glasses off for a second, I think Edwards is probably a worthy winner. There's a few guys overall that will be maybe disappointed to miss out. You mentioned Stephen McGinn from Falkirk.
Yeah.
And as soon as we signed Stephen, for example, people were saying, well, good player, but respectfully, does he have the mobility anymore? Is he going to get injuries? He's played something like 42 games for us this year.
Yeah.
And that wee dip that you spoke about, John, it's when the club were keeping quiet the fact that he had that hamstring issue. Mm-hmm. And, he was playing through that because he wanted to play week in, week out.
Plus, he'd had a new baby as well, and I always say put his form down to that as well.
Well, aye. I think guys like, so Stephen McGinn, I get that Falkirk fans will be shouting for him. Dunfermline fans will probably shout for guys like Joe Chalmers, maybe even Rhys Breen. I think Rhys Breen has quite a good season.
Rhys Breen's been very good for them.
But Airdrie fans will feel that maybe Fordyce was better than Breen, and Dunfermline's defence was because of Edwards and Benedictus. So it's a great debating point, but there's not too many shocks. Maybe
any other names from League One that you should have come into contention, not from Falkirk, but from other teams? Just looking around the league.
Do goalkeeper wise, I think Robbie Much, our old goalkeeper, has done very well at Edinburgh City.
Most saves, I think I saw Robbie posted up the other day. He's had the most.
Had a brilliant season. He really has. I think he would be in there with a shout. But Dennis, to be fair, the most clean sheets in the league and so consistent, you can't really argue. Perhaps the one that I'm surprised that there's not players from this year is Montrose. The last couple of years, Montrose have been they're a good footballing team. Peterhead has them playing really well, and they're always so difficult to break down. But this year, they just don't quite seem to have been as much of a threat as previous years.
Yeah. No, I mean, Alloa, when you look at the players Durnan, I think it's been good for them. Connor Salmon, I mean, I got slagged last week for suggesting that Connor Salmon would have scored a bucket load of goals in this side, by the way. So everyone that's dropped us comments on the YouTube videos and all that, I'm still sticking by it. I'm doubling down. I think Connor Salmon would have got his goals this season. But I guess that there's teams there. Donnelly from Alloa is quite good as well.
McIver. Yep.
McIver.
Three of them that play up front, they're all big lads.
Yeah, so I know it's an interesting point, but I mean, Cal Morrison, I've seen Dunfermline supporters and Aidan Nesbitt. Kai Kennedy, I guess, is a name like certainly over the last few months that's really come into form, but maybe just a a little bit too late to make the team of the year. But yeah, no, it was an interesting pick, and I actually look at the side and I can't really argue against it.
And that's it. If I was, I'll be honest with you, with Dunfermline, you're talking about them releasing Todorov and O'Hara. Surely Gallagher and Payton are guys that they and we and everyone else should be having a look at, depending on what their contract situation.
I don't actually know that. That's interesting to see what their contract situation is. I think Gallagher's got another year to go.
I will see it. Speaking to some of the folk behind the scenes at Queen's when we were down at Palmerston, they were saying that it's not a guarantee. So I don't know if it's one of these. He may have an option,
right?
But it's not a cast iron. So, and I think there'll be a lot of teams will look at Rory Payton, and I think there'll be a lot of teams look at Callum Gallagher.
I think so. I think you're right. We'll see. Well, actually, I'm interested. We're going to speak to the OTL Airdrie podcast later on, so we'll ask them about that because it's quite an interesting point. Because it's certainly someone that you would like to see at Falkirk, but then we've got Jordan Allen, which we'll get into in a wee bit later on as well. Other things happened. Kai Kennedy was named Player of the Month. Well deserved. I don't think there was anyone else going to come close to Kai with just the form he's in, the goals he's been scoring, Lewis.
Exactly. He was in a really good purple patch. It's hard to see kind of beyond them just now. As you say, the few goals, a couple of assists. He's just been in good form. He's finally got over that hernia issue, that kind of lower stomach issue he had. Yeah. And he's been in good form the last month or so.
Absolutely. The other thing, it breaks my heart to say this, but the Falkirk women yesterday on Sunday at the stadium didn't get promoted. They lost 2-0 to West Dyke. And the killer bit of it, Susan Wyatt, who's been so consistent and scored so many goals, and in fact, she's up for Player of the Year. She missed a penalty when it was 0-0. I heard there was a bit of a stramash, but there was some fights at the end as well, I believe.
I didn't hear that.
Yes, there was some boxing at the end from what I've heard. Apparently, an unprovoked punch aimed at one of the Falkirk players, and there was a bit of a stramash near the end of it. But yeah, so sorry to hear that the girls, they came so close as well, and it was just that shootout, and it's just pressure. When you're in a pressure situation like that, and West Dyke won out 2-0, and it's been neck and neck between Falkirk and West Dyke for most of the season for that second spot. So unlucky girls. We go again next season. So, got to hear that about Falkirk women. So there we go. Just as well, season tickets on sale now. I don't know how the sales have been going, Lewis. I guess probably slowly because people it's natural for people to go, right, I'll wait and find out what league we're going to be in next season.
I think they've not really done any announcements yet, John. They'll keep it kind of quiet for a few weeks to see. It's just the kind of early stages of it. And I know there's some people who, Mr. Wayne being one, on the group chats, every time you say like another 10, he's on saying, it's 10 now, it's 20 now. Calm down. The semi-final, Ross was giving us like updates every time that, 2 more seats were sold. We're like, we get it.
Yeah.
But no, I think the lane for... I think we've got something like 1,700 paying adults, and it goes up to about 2,300 once you include half-season tickets, concessions for the over 60s, I think, and the kids' free ones as well.
Yeah, it all depends on what happens in the next week, the next 2 weeks. Because if we go back up into the championship, there's obviously an inflating number on that. But we will wait and see about that. Right, shall we talk football then?
Go for it.
It was at the weekend. Peterhead 1, Falkirk 3 in the most dead rubber of games ever. 9 changes for Falkirk. PJ Morrison came in, Jordan Allen came in, Finn Yeats came in. Paul Watson is back, baby. Ola Lawal, Gary Oliver, Aidan Nesbitt, Sean Mackey and Matty Wright coming into the side, playing 4 with a diamond and 2 up top with Jordan and Matthew Wright playing up top together. Callum Morrison not there, neither was Ryan Williamson or Blaine Rowe. Lewis, what's his inside scoop on the 3 of those?
So Blaine's picked up an injury at the moment, undergoing treatment.
Yeah.
The more worrying one, I believe, is Cal. When I spoke to the manager post-match and said to him, it was quite a worry that I knew kind of midweek from chatting to a few of the players at the awards night, as some of the fans were, that 1 or 2 of them weren't going up on Saturday. They asked me to kind of keep it quiet, understandably, at the time.
Yeah.
But John and Paul rightfully decided to rest a few guys with one eye on this week, and I say that with all due respect to Peterhead. But he did mention after the Peterhead game when I said, because I didn't know Cal was injured. I had assumed at the time he was just one of a pile of guys that they'd offered to give the week off, basically, the weekend off.
Yeah.
And then John suddenly said post-match that, Cal was actually injured. And when I asked him, is he going to be back in time, or actually are you about to lose one of your best players for the playoff games? And he said, we don't know. We're going to have to find out.
It's worrying. Actually worrying. But I wonder, we'll wait and see. We'll talk about the Airdrie game in a bit, but whether he goes. In fact, we'll talk about it later on, because I think if that is the case, it might force him into playing the diamond in midfield and giving up that the.
Yeah, he did say that very same thing. As soon as obviously we normally play the 4-2-3-1, and as soon as you lose one of the two wingers from that formation, you're almost forced to shake it up a bit.
Well, exactly. When we've seen Aidan Nesbitt go wide this season, he's not been the greatest out there. All credit to Aidan. Great to see as well, Lewis. Young boys on the bench, Logan Sinclair and Max McGinley. Great to see youth starting to filter back into the squad and making their Falkirk debuts as well. I mean, we all love when a homegrown player comes through the ranks and gets in the squad, and it was great to see the two young lads coming on there at the weekend.
Yeah, and I think Logan especially, because he got more of the game than Max did, but I thought Logan did really well. I honestly did. I thought he had Cole Donaldson beside him for the closing stages of the game, just talking them through things. And it was interesting because the first couple of tackles, I don't know, you maybe don't see it on the highlights, but live at the time, Cole was saying to him, right, go for that one, and then just hold off a minute and then let him bring it down and go for the tackle. And it was on the third one, and I don't know if it was just third time lucky or whatever, but as Peterhead played it forward and Cole goes to turn to tell Logan to challenge, he's already gone through the boy and he's already cleared the ball halfway down the pitch. And I'm like, to see a young player, okay, on his debut, but playing with so much confidence was brilliant. And as you say, it's been long overdue to get the academy back involved.
Absolutely. And what did you make of the general performance then, Lewis, being as dead as rubber as it was?
I think it was pretty comfortable over the piece. Again, I don't mean that in any way disrespectfully to Peterhead. I think we could have been further ahead at half-time. They took their goal very well. We didn't, the guy picked up at the edge of his own half. He's ran down the left flank, cut in, and it was a cracking finish. We were disappointed, I think, from our point of view, that nobody engaged the ball in about 40 yards.
Did you think initially it was a penalty when they equalised? Did you think it was a penalty?
Yeah, so I kind of swithered because from our angle on the replay, it looked like it was a kind of shoulder to shoulder. But speaking to Paul Watson afterwards, he says, no, there was contact on the leg. He says he's taken my standing ankle.
Yeah.
And that's why at first we all kind of stopped thinking, well, is that a penalty? But Paul seemed pretty adamant, to be fair, post-match.
The worrying bit for me is how soft, yet again, we've lost a lot of goals like that, down through the middle like that. We've lost a lot of goals from that, and that worries me slightly going into these playoff games.
Yeah, especially when you've got guys like Gabby McGill and Callum Gallagher. I mean, let's be honest. I'll be writing the programme notes later on tonight for that pre-match and for that programme. But I remember last time, the one before, our record was something like 2 wins and 13 or 2-14 against Airdrie. Since we came down from the championship, it's been a terrible record. They absolutely are our bogey team. Now, thankfully, John and Paul have turned that around with the performances in the last few games. And I think that we were very unlucky at the stadium. And I don't want to go into this too much because we'll get onto it. But, I think the last game against Airdrie, we looked pretty good. Yeah. But we had that 10 crazy minutes that suddenly we go from a goal up to a goal down. And it was indicative of what you've just said, that those kind of soft goals right through the middle, it's something we do need to be aware of. Maybe it's a case of somebody has to take one for the team in midfield.
Yeah, no. Good to see Paul Watson mentioned back in at centre defence. How do you think he did?
I think he did pretty well. He was really experienced. There was a couple of times that you could tell that he used every bit of the experience just to kind of draw a foul, draw a free kick, or get in the way of the man. I don't think he really put a foot wrong. He's been really frustrated. I know he was hoping to be back. When they first told him 1st of January or just after, you'll be back at the start of January, he was immediately telling me, I want to be back for the 1st of December, not the 1st of January.
Yeah.
I know they're saying I won't do it, but that's what I'm aiming for. And to be fair, end of October, he was kind of looking good for that. And then he had a wee setback that he's now spoken about, and that's what kept him out again. And then finally, when he got back into full-time training, the trouble was by that point, your body's not trained for a full year. So he's getting all these little niggly knee and ankle and groin knocks just because of the strains of the training. So it's been a really, really frustrating time for Paul, but I was delighted to see him back. And yeah, I thought he played really well.
No, again, there was a lot of changes, a lot to talk about here when it comes to the actual setup. Sean Mackey, left back.
I think it was the right decision to give him game time.
Yeah.
I think defensively it was fine. Crossing, you've probably seen, again, highlights. There was 5 or 6 times he got to the byline, he did the hard bit, and then the final ball wasn't quite there. I think you could see from you don't need me to say it, the manager was screaming away at the sidelines at the time. 2 or 3 times it ended up like in the side netting when he tried to cross it, or it went out the back of the pitch. That was the only perhaps one thing that he didn't do in the game. But equally, you could argue, is that because he hadn't had a regular game for a while at left back?
Yeah, we know what Gary Oliver. We've seen Gary Oliver dropping into midfield earlier in the season. We know what he can do. Great run through the middle when he seemed to do. Aiden obviously playing that kind of pivot role with him as well. Max, we know what he can do in midfield. So that was the midfield is kind of, we know what they can do. Interested to see Ola in that kind of 10. And then the 2 up front. Jordan Allen, Matthew Wright work well as a 2.
They actually combined not bad.
For the first, obviously, Jordan Allen put the ball into the back post for Matty Wright.
It was a terrific pass. It really
was a great ball. Yeah.
I think he was frustrated a couple of times, Jordan, that he didn't get the kind of pass that he wanted on a couple of occasions. One in particular in the second half, he was screaming for the cutback when he was standing on the penalty spot unmarked and didn't get it. But delighted that he got his goal. Both the guys getting goals. And they combine not bad, and that's the thing that we've said about Jordan Allen. He looks so much better when
he's got someone
playing as a 2. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we did obviously sign Jordan Allen for money as well. He was the top scorer in the league when we signed him, but he always played as a 2 at Clyde. And whether he's with the formation or whether John McGuinn's brought him in to play as a 2, it's quite interesting. It'll be, like you say, we'll be interested to see what happens going to Airdrie. Ola, absolute maverick. You don't know what we're going to get with Ola, but again, like Jordan, a goal and assist on there.
Yeah, I mean, Nizzy and Ola were playing either side of the diamond. So Max was at the bottom of it. You had Ola and Nizzy left and right.
Oh, right. I thought Ola was just in behind. So it was Gary Oliver. It was just in
Gary Oliver was actually the 10 and Ola was on the one side and Nizzy on the other. So Ola was actually playing on the side of the diamond. Now, the comment somebody made to me before the game was when they saw the team sheet and worked out with the 2 up front, it meant we were going to the diamond. They said it would be really interesting now to see how Ola does defensively, because that's perhaps been the one criticism of Ola, that he's great. He's great going forward, and he can give you that little bit of unpredictability. But has he now learned with the full-time training that actually you can't just attack, you've got to do the digging work as well? And to be fair to him, I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the second half performance, especially, performance overall, looking at the stats, most of the possession, most shots, most on target, worthy winners, I think, when you look at it, especially on the second half performance. But it's interesting to see all those players coming in, very different side from what we saw at hand, and then they all seem to mark down a claim in ways. Can you see any of the team that played against Peterhead coming into contention against Airdrie?
I think Ola has done himself a favour. I really do. I think I'd expect him to feature, at least some of the games, both of them. Matty, I'm not sure. I think Remarn's probably going to come back in for him. But again, Jordan Allen, an assist, a goal, might just get game time now. I think the defence will probably revert back to what it was previously.
Yeah.
So the only question really is around midfield.
That's going to be an interesting, especially well, if we're looking at Cal Morrison's injured. It's going to be interesting how he sets up in there. Let's hear what happened when you caught up with Mr. McGuinn.
I think we probably deserved to be ahead at half time, but we weren't. You know, Jordan's had a great chance. Gary's played him in 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Keeper makes a save, but Jordan does produce a great cross for Matty to score. So I'm delighted for these two guys to combine today and get a goal each. So it's really good, you know, 9 changes in today in the team. So I felt we deserved to be in front, but fair play to Peterhead, you know, they broke away. We should have probably played the ball on instead of trying to control it, but lose possession, and the lads cut in and had a really good shot, and obviously that gave Peterhead a lift, and they started the second half by pushing us back, and we've kind of like won the ball, played out, got Jordan in a good position, and he's finished it really well, you know, like, so Matty's involved and Ola's involved, goes out wide and it's a great shot across the goal, so, you know, perfect for that point of view. It gave us a 2-1 lead, and you know, we built on it fairly quickly after, which was another good finish for Ola, and then I thought we were comfortable after that, but I think at 1 each in the sort of 10 minutes or so in the start of the second half, there wasn't a lot in it, you know. I think Peterhead, all the games they've played, probably maybe the best they've done against us. But really pleased with making so many changes in the team and to play very well on you know, a lot of difficult conditions. Played really well, but passed the ball really well, scored some good goals. You're always a little bit disappointed when you lose a goal, but the boys had a really good strike. But with so many different combinations today, I thought we played very well, you know, and we've introduced a couple of really young boys as well into the game. Logan Sinclair coming on and playing beside Cole, great experience for him, and then late in the game Max McGinley coming on for Gatesy. So yeah, all in all, really good performance, and delighted with the result.
So there he was. Didn't seem a very jovial mood, John. He never is in a jovial mood, right enough, is he? But yeah, I mean, a fair reflection of the game. We didn't, you know, look. I don't think in any point we looked troubled at all with this.
No, I think for me, with complete respect to Peterhead, I thought first half we were comfortable. That goal aside, that, as I say, O'Keefe took really well, but you know, it was a breakaway goal. It was a counter-attack breakaway goal. Beyond that, PJ didn't really have anything to do.
Yeah.
Second half, as soon as we got the quick fire double, the guys never looked back. You could see instantly the Peterhead heads just dropped. That was it. It was game over, especially because, you know, from our point of view, win, lose or draw, were second, and their point of view, win, lose or draw, they were 10th. And interestingly, in the background there, if you heard midway through that interview, the old Scooter tunes.
Yeah,
on.
I was like, who's playing the logical song?
Yep. So the answer, that party atmosphere, that was the Peterhead dressing room.
Was it really?
You've just been relegated, and the tunes are on having a dance.
Yeah. I guess they've got to pick themselves up and go again. I guess they were having their night out or whatever. You know, we've still got serious business to be done in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, no, terrible choice of music, right enough. Shout out as well, I've got to say the players, there's been a great picture Ian Snedden shared on Twitter. We put up on our own Falkirk Daft Twitter, you can follow us there. But of all the supporters that made it up there on the pitch at the end, picture with Ola, and I think that's Matty Wright squeezed into the picture as well. You can see it behind me here if you're watching the video version. But no, brilliant to see that. The players coming over and getting involved with the supporters, especially all the diehards that made it up to Peterhead.
Yeah. It's good to see that the young team have got a new head honcho and Alan Harkins at the back there, just peeping over as well.
Yeah, shout out to Big Al, who you'll see in the picture over my shoulder. He's the one with the grey hair at the back. There he is, Big Al. So yeah. I mean, dead rubber down the road. Confidence going into the playoffs games, which was, you know, the be all and end all in this game, is just to get the win under the belt and get that, you know, going into the game. Comments from the supporters. SP Offshore says we did what we need to do today and not much more. Onwards to Airdrie. Gordon, Lawal had a terrific second half. Jordan Allen's goal was a peach. Tuesday is going to be difficult, especially as Rowe is injured. Not sure we should play a diamond up there. I wonder, it will be interesting. We'll speak to the Only podcast in a minute, and we'll find out exactly what might happen there. Homer says something I didn't expect to see. A goal from Wright. Ross's favourite player. Maybe he will now kick on and he might remember how to score. Listen, if he's got confidence going into these playoff games and he's coming off the bench, that's all we need. For me, Jordan Allen scoring, Matty Wright scoring, that's great, because if they're coming off the bench to replace Burrell or Oliver, because I've got a funny feeling that's what he might go. I think he might go Gary Oliver and Burrow up top.
That was my kind of takeaway. There was three things that I came away with Peterhead thinking. First of all, it was, job done, down the road, 3 points, and no injuries was the other thing we didn't mention. And it's like, well, the fringe guys, as you say, so Lawal as well, Lawal, Wright, Jordan, all suddenly getting goals. It's bound to put pressure on and gives you options off the bench. And the last point is regarding that diamond. The one thing that surprised me from Peterhead is because we were playing the diamond, we were obviously narrow in midfield.
Yeah,
they got the goal by O'Keefe bursting down the left flank, like hugging the touchline. I'm so surprised he didn't do that more often. But I think if you gave somebody like Gabby McGill that time and space, you'd probably get punished, which is why if Cal's fit, then I think he'll go back to 4-2-3-1. But that's just personal opinion.
I think he will go if Cal's fit. I don't think if Cal's fit, we've got the personnel to play the 4-2-3-1. And I think he'll be forced into the diamond against Airdrie. And maybe gives him something to think about, though, But I mean, I'll be interested to see who he starts at centre half as well. If he goes with Watson alongside Brad, or if he goes back to Colin Brad.
I think Brad has to play. Here's the thing. See, for Player of the Year, everybody always looks at goal scorers and assists. So guys like Cal Morris and Aidan Nesbitt will always get headlines. The one thing I'd just like to say for a wee second, John, is two names, Brad Mackay and Leon McCann.
Yes.
Stephen McGinn started the season on fire, and then you said he had that wee dip kind of January, February. We now know it's because that hamstring injury that he just wanted to keep playing through it, and eventually John McGlynn said, take a week or two and then you'll be back to your best. And he now is. We've seen that. But since the turn of the year, I don't think Brad Mackay has really done much wrong. And of course, somebody will be screaming at this going, oh, well, there was this exact move or that exact goal, but I think Leon McCann and Brad Mackay have both been so consistent.
I agree with that.
And, the guys are giving you like the old 7.5, 8 out of 10 type thing every single week. So probably I would expect both of them to play. Plus Airdrie, we know, will play that long diagonal to Leon like they do every time, because as their former player, they view his one weakness as in the air. Watch it actively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Leon's wins a lot more headers than he loses, if I'm honest. For a wee guy, he's really good in the air, and he jumps, he leaps unbelievable.
But their free kicks, their goal kicks, watch McGill. Yeah. I bet you McGill will peel off from the centre and he'll go and stand out beside Leon, where he has 6-inch advantage height-wise to begin with.
Yeah, no, I did. I've seen that a few times with Airdrie. David says, didn't make the trip up, but delighted Alan got his goal, and by all accounts, Lawal played well. Need a massive improvement from how we played at Hampden if we want to be promoted. Lawal has to start the playoffs for me. Ryan, good to see Alan and Lawal get their goals, and good to see some youth players getting a chance. Tuesday is going to be very difficult. We just need to be our best. I think we're all agreed it's going to be a tough old game. A couple other comments coming in. Decent second half, says Monroe. Couple of cracking goals, and all looked really good. Customary avoidable goal conceded. Yes, the only negative was absolutely Baltic, says Monroe. How was the temperature, Lewis?
The camera didn't do it justice. It was really foggy. The drive up was horrific. There was times it was only like 20 feet visibility.
Oh, really?
And it was just like total whiteout. Thankfully, when you got up there, you could see at least the other stand. So we were very lucky. But what the camera probably didn't show for anyone at home was the fog kind of mist like rolling down the pitch all game. And yeah, temperature-wise, it was Baltic.
It's always. I'm glad we don't have to go there next season. That's for sure. Ross says, "Good game for the fringe players to get some much needed minutes. Great to see a couple of the youngsters get on, and even better to see both strikers get themselves goals." Exactly what me and Lewis were saying. And Gregory finishes up. Was a good game. Lawal and Allen worked really well together. Let's take this momentum and bury Airdrie in both legs. Here. Listen, one more Falkirk Daft, potentially two more Falkirk Dafts to go of the season. If you want to be a guest pundit, we'd love to have you on next week. Drop us a DM on Twitter, Facebook, or you can drop us an email, John or Ross at falkirkdaft.co.uk.
This is Falkirk Daft.
Every week on Falkirk Daft, we like to look ahead to the games we've got coming up, and it's two huge games for both clubs as we take on Airdrie in the semi-final of the League One play-off. And it's a nice, it's certainly more attractive than Andrew, who we normally have on. It's Emma from the Only the Lonely podcast. How you doing, Emma?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice to talk to you. Bit nervous, but big week, yeah.
Oh, I did. I think. I mean, how are your nerves, Lewis? Because I mean, you could just feel the nerves after Saturday. It was like, right, okay, that's done now. The league's done, and it's on to these ones, you know.
And that's it, coming back down the road from the weekend. I think, wasn't thinking about it at all until Peterhead was out the way, because it needed taking care of. But now suddenly from today, the nerves are just creeping in a wee bit, and they're just kind of building by the hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously you secured at the weekend, you secured the third spot. Emma, how did you do at the weekend? It looked quite comprehensive from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I never made the game myself, but I watched it back on the Diamonds TV. They put the match replays up, and it was pretty comfortable. We rested quite a few, or some of the kind of regular starters that we did have, came off quite early in the second half, but they looked good. But I think it was good to get the Edinburgh hoodoo off our backs, because they've given us a torrid time this season. But they didn't look particularly kind of up for it or interested, but you could probably understand from their point of view. So yeah, I think for us it was just that mixture of resting players but not letting them get too.
Yeah, it was a hard one. It was a hard one to juggle, I guess, because you need to secure that third spot, but then at the same time you're like, right, we've got to look ahead to Tuesday. So I guess when you went the goals up, that was when McCabe was able to just go, right, okay, we'll take you out, take you out. I'm assuming Gallagher, I haven't even looked at him, but assuming he took Gallagher and McGill off.
I think he did, actually. I had to stop it just before the kind of end, but I think he took Gallagher and McGill off, and I'm trying to think who the third sub was. But yeah, they were rested. Gal came off pretty early. He got his goal, and it took him off early in the second half, so he'll be ready for you guys.
I hope not. I was kind of hoping that you'd come on here, Emma, and say, "Oh, bad news! Gallagher and McGill are both out injured." No, that's not happening. No.
I'm afraid not.
Can we just confirm as well, there was dubiety over whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, Emma? Can you just pass on to your guys at the games on the Wednesday night, so they can put up on Wednesday, right?
I'll pass that along. It'll be empty.
I mean,
one team in Airdrie.
I mean, going into the game, the last 6 games, Airdrie went through that complete purple patch when you were battering everyone, scoring loads of goals. But it's just, there's been a wee bit of a drop off in the last 6 games. In fact, with Falkirk as well, very similar records: 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, and then 3 wins, 1 draw, and a loss for us as well. Has there been a bit of a drop off, Emma, or do you think it was more of a case of like, I think we're pretty much assured of playoffs now, and there's just been one eye on those games?
Yeah, I think we knew there would probably have to be something to go majorly wrong, for us not to make it, and we did similar against Queen of the South. We rested, a few players for that game as well. So I think probably one eye's been on the games coming up. Once we kind of knew the chances of us, falling away from that spot were slim. Obviously, there was always the kind of, is it going to be third? Is it going to be fourth? But with Alloa having Dunfermline the last game of the season, I didn't expect Dunfermline to want to let up. They're going to want to finish the season's kind of as they've played it all season with a win. So I think it's just between the Airdrie and Falkirk, just 2 very closely matched teams as well. Probably with similar problems and consistency this season. There's been great times, there's great streaks. There's been some games you kind of, our 3 game against you guys the last time we played you at home, was one of them, and that's the thing that kind of worries a couple of us about Airdrie. We've got that really duff performance in us, at
Falkirk,
times.
that's
We know how that feels, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you like you say, you look at this season, 1 win for Falkirk, 1 win for Airdrie, 2 draws across the season.
How do you call it?
I know it's on a knife edge, really. And I mean, but when you look across the last 4 seasons, and shout out to our resident stat O'Donnell, who has given me the stats, which make for terrible reading. Between the two teams, played 14, Falkirk have won 2, drawn 4, and lost 8. So you can see, Airdrie for us, it's been a real thorn in our side.
I don't think we've lost at the Falkirk Stadium either, have we? Since I'm trying to remember, but I think I saw somebody post that statement somewhere, but actually I haven't checked to see if it's true. But we have had a good run there. But they're very similar. It's a very similar surface to us. We like kind of a big open park. I think it suits us in the way that we've been playing. But no, I haven't. I don't think I've had many unhappy trips to.
No, unfortunately not.
Can I just quickly ask, is your thoughts going into this playoff game, is your concern rather more defensively? Because supporting Airdrie, you must be looking at that going, guys like Frizzell, guys like McGill, guys like Gallagher, you're scoring for fun for most of the season. So is your primary mindset, I know we're going to get 1 or 2 goals here, can we keep the back door shut?
I think if you'd asked me before Christmas, I think that would have been, but actually we've been much, much better. We brought in, I know you guys had Anne Sinclair at you guys, and I don't know if he was particularly a favourite, but we've been much more solid in defence. And actually, the main concern for me, probably the last few games, has been if we don't win that midfield battle. I think you saw it in the first half at your place. We weren't winning the 50-50s. We weren't winning our battles in the middle of the park, and obviously we kind of managed to right that at halftime. So I think that's more my concern. I think we need to make sure that we don't get kind of overrun there, and we're standing up to it.
So is it key then for you that McCabe plays in midfield? Because that game you're talking about, he didn't start the game.
He came on and he really influenced that game, yeah.
He came on in defence.
Centre half, yeah.
Yeah, because ATS hurt I think it was his hamstring. So he's just coming back from that. And it did make a huge difference. We were talking about this last night, and it is a good problem to have. But I was saying I personally feel more relaxed having the manager in the dugout. I think
Really?
I would. Yeah, I mean, he's a huge player for us, probably one of our better players, but I think, and I think Andrew made the point last night, only he knows, how much he gets out of managing on the park versus being in the dugout. But I think we've had a settled defence, and we've had, Dean McMaster's come in and Justin Devon, and they've done an excellent job. So it doesn't worry me that if he doesn't play, but what an excellent sub to have to come on if you need him.
Yeah.
So I think my comfort levels is that I would prefer it, certainly just for that first leg, that he's managing the game. But he is, if the players show that they can, he's not the type of guy who's going to put himself in the team at the expense of somebody else. Doesn't have that kind of ego that just because he wants to play. So we don't know really how it's going to line up on Tuesday, whether he'll play or whether he'll trust the guys. Have you say I've been on that little bit of a purple patch and I've been doing really well. I don't think he'll start, but
okay.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I mean, Kai Kennedy's always been a bit of a thorn in the side for Airdrie this season. Kai Kennedy aside, is there anything that worries you about Falkirk, Emma?
I think that they can be as dangerous as us when it clicks, and it's one of those we were talking last night, Cal Morrison's always a worry for us, and I'm not sure how popular it is with yourself, but I just feel he's always a player that, he's fast and he can't take your eye off him, really. You have to always kind of watch him. So those were the two that we
might be injured,
out.
by the way. We don't know.
Well, we did talk. Yeah, we talked about that as well, because somebody had posted, I think, on our podcast chat that they'd heard that he might have an injury. So those were the two that we, and every time I see him, I just think he looks quite dangerous. Although I think Cammy Ballantine did quite a good job up against him at the last game we played. But those are the two that we were talking about, and Kai Kennedy seems to pop up with a goal, doesn't he? He's been a great. He's on loan, isn't he, till the end of the season?
He's on loan in the season. So yeah, he's coming to right again. He's had real good form at the moment. I mean, obviously from our perspective, Callum Gallagher and Miguel, I mean, have been flying over, certainly since the turn of the year. Two of them have been unbelievable. We were talking about it earlier on. What's the contract situation with Callum Gallagher, Emma? Is he signed up for another year, or is he a free agent at the end of this?
We don't actually know. We're not. Airdrie's not really too great at telling you how long players sign for. So some we know and some we don't. I think it's to the end of the season, but he's one of the guys that have stayed part-time because I think he's got quite a good job outside
Right.
football, and I think that, and I could be wrong, but I think that's what maybe stopped him making the step up before, is that they wanted him to go full-time. But he was happy to stay part-time. So I'm not 100% sure, but that as I understand it. So I mean, obviously we're all hoping he stays, you know.
I think if you go up, you definitely do. That's the thing. You win the playoffs, you know, respectfully for both teams. If you win in the playoffs, I think Gallagher stays and all the guys stay. The difficulty might be, should it go against, you know, you guys in the playoffs, whether against us or should you get to the final, then it'll be, will there be teams, do you think, looking at guys like, we keep talking about Miguel and Gallagher, but even somebody like Ballantyne, who's only signed on last summer. But
he signed for 2 years, though, I think.
Is it 2?
So I think he's still here next season. He's one of the ones I'm sure was here. And I think Josh Ray is still under contract as well, keeper.
Yep.
So I think, but you know, at our level of game, if somebody comes in and wants to pay money for a player, but we had that situation last season as well, and when we didn't go up, and obviously we lost, you know, Dylan Easton to Wraith, and we kind of knew that would happen, but we held on to a lot more than we thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Because like I say, it's so, I think the two teams very evenly matched, and certainly the two best footballing playing sides in the league. So I'm going to ask you for a prediction right here, Emma, for tomorrow night, and then for the second leg, what are you thinking? I mean, and you know, bearing in mind, because Airdrie have been in the playoffs, this is their first experience of League One playoffs, which is unbelievable. But you guys, when it comes to the playoffs, you've not got the greatest of records. How do you see it going?
Was saying last night, I went to my first playoff in '97 against Hibs, and I said it was the first time I've had my heart broken in football. Was them. And then we've been in 9. That'll be our 10th. And I've seen them lose every single one. In all manner of different ways, you know, variety is the spice of life.
Well, certainly last year took the biscuit to you.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life when it comes to Airdrie in the playoffs, I have learned. Although I'm pretty nervous. I think it'll be a tight game. I don't think any team will be out it by Tuesday night. I think it's still going to be very much alive on Saturday. I'm going to go 1-0 Airdrie. I'm not going to go Andrew Duffy and say it's going to be a 3-0 rout. And
well, that's what I was going to ask, was do you think you guys, given your attacking prowess, do you think they might say, actually, let's just go all guns blazing?
I hope they do.
Get it done 90 minutes at the Excelsior, and then the second leg is not redundant, but, you know, if you could go into that game 2-3 goals up and just shut up shop?
Well, we've seen what happens to Airdrie sometimes this season when you've got a 3-0 lead. So
yes, well, that is that. Yeah,
they're not to be trusted at times, but I mean, that's the one thing that we said, and we've all been kind of saying, the Airdrie fans that I've been talking to, is just guys for it, you know. And you guys probably think the same. Don't be afraid of it. Just, you know, we know we can play great football. Just go out and attack it, and you know, don't leave any regrets on the park, however it goes. You know that you've given it your all. I mean, the Montrose game last season was probably, I think that took the wind out of ourselves.
The Montrose game last season was mental.
But there's been pictures getting posted this week, including there's one of my own Apple Watch, where the heart rates at that game, dangerous heart rate detected. I think it was one of our fans posted. But I think that really knocked the wind out ourselves for the final, the kind of effort and the energy and the emotion that went into that. So I hope for a win, but calmer. A little bit calmer.
Right, okay then. Lewis, what are you going for?
I think tomorrow night will be a draw. I think tomorrow's going to be quite cagey. And then I think both teams will go for it in the second leg.
Yeah, I think
gut feel. I think that's what it'll be. I've
got a gut feeling. I can see it's going to be really cagey tomorrow night, feeling each other out. I think
1-1 tomorrow.
1-1, and then hopefully
it'll be all guns blazing, a really open game.
I really just hope it's finished within like the 290 minutes. I don't want to go to penalties because
no.
it'll just be horrific.
Absolutely not.
Horrendous. Can you imagine?
Oh, I don't even. Oh my God! See the nerves we were talking about earlier on, Emma. Jesus, don't talk about that. God Almighty, penalties on Saturday be the worst. Oh man, right. Well, listen.
Are you
Thanks for
both
coming on.
making the game?
Do you know what? This
Yep,
is what I'm going to. I am not making a game tomorrow night. I'll be there on Saturday. I'm going to see Duran tomorrow night.
Come undone.
Yeah. So, yes, I am going to see, and I'll get slagged off rotten for even admitting it on this podcast. But yeah, maybe I could make the first half and then go to the gig. I wonder if that would work.
We're streaming it, so you could just have it on your phone.
That's true. I could do that. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's like you say, bagging airs like you are, Emma. But we will see what happens.
Bag of nerves and battle scarred, I think, is how I described it.
And thanks very much to you guys at Only the Only OTL podcast. You've been on with us all season, and we really appreciate your time because it's been good banter. I have to admit, it's been good banter between the two podcasts over this season. So really appreciate your time, Emma. And we'll see you at the stadium, or we'll see you at the Excelsior tomorrow and the stadium on Saturday.
See you later.
Thanks, Emma.
This is Falkirk Daft.
So it's the end of the season, and the big question has to be asked: who is Falkirk Daft's rated player of the season? We do it every week on the podcast. We ask who's Falkirk Daft rated player of a particular week, and this time it is for the season. We have been asking for your nominations so we can make a shortlist for you guys to vote on, and we will then present the player with the inaugural Falkirk Daft trophy, still to be made. I'm thinking one of these little things that you get like at Cubs or whatever, just a little Falkirk Daft badge, and then just.
I was assuming the bucket hat, John.
And you'll get a bucket. Do you know what? We'll throw in a Falkirk Daft bucket hat to the winner as well. So just this really pathetic little trophy, right? That I really want. Just this tiny little thing that you get.
An egg cup.
Yeah, like an egg cup, and present that over to whoever is the Falkirk Daft player of the year. Right, so been asking on Twitter and Facebook for your suggestions. Here's what's come in, and we've got a shortlist which I'll give to you in a minute. Fraser kicks us off. Hendo, very consistent. Scott, tough choice. McGinn has to be the most consistent though. Charlie, Stephen McGinn, the captain we've been crying out for years, has made a huge difference in midfield. Dougie, tough this year because there's been a few that have had purple patches throughout the season. For consistency levels though, I've got to go for Leon McCann. Another Dougie says Stephen McGinn, not only for his own performance but the demands he sets for everyone else. He's raised a few other players like Nesbitt and Morrison this year. He is a true captain. Dr. Martin says Callum Morrison, the player that over the whole season has had the biggest impact in the most matches. That's a very good argument there. Logan, quite a few players deserving of this, but Leon McCann has been different class at times. Owen, great that we actually have a hard choice to make this year. Any one of 6 or 7, and I don't think anyone would complain. Very true. Graham, Leon McCann for a wee guy. He wins loads of headers. We were saying that earlier on. Robert has to be Kai Kennedy. He's been brilliant post-injury issues. Probably bagged us about 500,000 with his hit versus air. Special mention though to McCann and McGinn. McGinn especially, leader and legend. Great to have that type of player in our squad. William goes for, I think it was Sean Dice who said maximum effort is minimum requirement. So for effort alone, Gary Oliver. Interesting choice. And finally, Ewan hits us up with Matthew Wright, the GOAT. I think that was probably aimed at Mr. Ross Wayne. Lewis, I want to come to you on this one. You've been at just about every Falkirk game this season, home and away. Who is it for you? Because it has been a bit of a strange one. There's not been one player. I mean, at the start, you would Callum Morrison started the season, and you thought he's going to be untouchable. Steve McGinn at the start of the season, absolute strolled every game, had a bit of a dip in the middle, has come back into form again. Kai Kennedy, since the turn of the year, is
interesting shout for Gary as well. I think Gary is a bit of a not unsung hero, but he doesn't quite get the credit he deserves sometimes. That's an interesting one.
Hendo, since he moved into midfield, has been brilliant in there, absolutely brilliant. So there's a lot of options there. Leon McCann, again, probably our most consistent player of the season, but he's had a bit of a tail off in form over the last couple of months. It's a real interesting question because, like you say, there's been fits and starts for a lot of players across the season. Who is it for you, though?
Torn between three, in honesty, John. And it's some of the names that have been mentioned. So if you're talking about goals and assists, and Cal's had something like 15 goals and multiple assists, he's had a huge contribution this season. And interestingly, all the players voted him as their player of the season
Really?
at the awards night on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. For not just influence in games, but influence around the club, influence on others. If that was a deciding factor, I'd be going for Stephen McGinn.
Yeah.
Because as somebody quite rightfully mentioned, and I'm really glad they did, he's been great. He's been a proper leader, he's been a proper captain, but he has helped set standards this year that when other people don't hit them, he's not shy in letting them know about it.
Yeah.
And suddenly what we're seeing is, with all due respect, a few guys who maybe last year, if we're being honest, like take Aidan Nesbitt, just one of the names that somebody mentioned. Last year, Aidan was kind of splitting the fans. They could see the ability, but it wasn't consistently on show. This year, Aidan's had a fantastic season.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that speaking to some of the players, they all say that Stephen McGinn has helped them raise their game. For overall consistency, it's Leon for me.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps for that reason, I would be tempted to go for Leon. I really would, because defenders very rarely get the praise, but in terms of just doing his job all season long, and also he's had, compared to last year, he's really come on this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm struggling to see past him.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, Lewis, because we've totted up the votes. We asked on our Twitter, we asked on our Facebook and our Insta who you think should be on the shortlist for players, and we're going to get you guys to vote on Falkirk Daft Player of the Year. So here is your shortlist. Okay. Leon McCann, by far the most popular. Stephen McGinn is on the shortlist as well. Kai Kennedy has made the shortlist at the expense of a Mr. Callum Morrison, because the other name on that shortlist is Mr. Liam Henderson. So we put it out there to Falkirk Daft listeners, and that is your shortlist. Leon McCann, Stephen McGinn, Kai Kennedy, and Liam Henderson. It's going to be an interesting vote.
It is. I'm surprised that Cal's not on there, I have to say.
Yeah, I was surprised as well.
Management said he was their player of the season. So he got management player of the season and he got players player of the season. So to not make the shortlist, that's a controversial moment.
Controversial, but Kai Kennedy is on there just in front of him. So there you have it. Yep, that is the Falkirk Daft shortlist for Player of the Year. We're going to put that up on our Twitter, so please follow us at Falkirk Daft. Cast your vote. For my, I'm going to throw Matt up his worth. I'm going for Hendo. I love the big guy. You know, midfield, it doesn't look like he should be a central midfielder for a start, right? But see the amount of balls he wins in his distribution, and he waved in a couple of goals recently, assists. Big Hendo for me. I love Leon McCann as well, just for, like you say, that consistent. In fact, again, just a wee guy who just, like a wee terrier at that left back.
Tenacious, isn't he?
Scored one of the goals of the season as well for us as well. And if McGuffey hadn't scored that wonder goal, it would have been goal of the season that Leon would have scored. But yeah, it's Hendo for me. But please vote, and we'll get that terrible trophy made up and present it to the Falkirk player of your choosing. So get voting right now on our Twitter. The poll is up right now at Falkirk Daft on Twitter.
Is the trophy, just to confirm, John, sorry, is it going to be like half steak and half chicken, or what's the... Just a thought.
This is Falkirk Daft.
So that's it for this week's Falkirk Daft. Thank you so much, Lewis, for joining me today in Ross's absence. It's been great to have you on, mate, as per. Before you go up, I'm going to have to ask you, what team are you going for tomorrow night? We're recording this on a Monday. When you look at the performance against Peterhead, when you look at previous games against Airdrie, who are you putting out as your starting 11?
I think the manager will go back to Brian in goals, just because he was playing regularly. I think flat back four will be left to right, probably Leon, Cole, Brad, Ryan. I think you'll have...
Ryan going to make it? He wasn't on the bench on Saturday, was he?
Well, I think he was rested though, rather than injured.
Right,
but
okay.
That's only my understanding.
Right.
So on the assumption that Ryan's fit, I think he'll play.
Right.
The real debate is who you play as your 2 holding midfielders. It's 2 out of 3 from...
So are you going for the 4-3? Are you going for the 4-2?
On the assumption that Cal's
Cal
fit,
Morrison,
the manager said he hoped he might be.
Right.
On the assumption he is, then yes, I'm going back to 4-2-3-1. The 2, it's 2 out of 3 from Max, Stephen McGinn, and Hendo. That's the one that I'm kind of really struggling with at the moment. I think the 3 pick themselves if they're fit, in terms of Cal Morrison on the right, Kai Kennedy on the left, and probably Aidan Nesbitt comes back in. The only other one would be Gary Oliver. Up front, I think Remarn would come back.
Yeah, I tend to. I think at the Excelsior, I think we've got to go for the 4-2-1-3. And again, it depends if Callum's... The big if is if Callum is injured, we've not got the personnel to play that for me.
I think there's only 2, maybe 3 decisions to make, John. I really do.
Yeah.
I think Stephen McGinn's guaranteed to play as one of the 2 anchors.
I think you'll put Hendo in there alongside Stephen
probably, and then you could put Max in at number 10. So that's your second decision.
I think I would rather have Max in that for the forward role. So I would go, like you say, I think the back 4 picks itself. I think Brad and Colby Shewan's back in, despite them being a bit, Cole especially being a bit ropey at the moment. But I don't think Paul Watson's got enough game time to come into a big game like this, because he would be the only other. Sean Mackey didn't have a great game on Saturday in all accounts. So I think, the back 4 picks itself on with Big Brian and Sticks. But Hendo and McGinn in midfield with Max for me just in front of them.
Yep, and that's
if Cal Morrison is, if Cal Morrison's fit, then you've got Morrison, Kennedy, and Burrell through the middle for me.
Yep.
So we'll wait and see. But again, if Cal Morrison is injured, I will be intrigued at how he sets up. I don't know if he will set up with 2 up top and maybe just go for that diamond, and maybe just take that kind of. Because then you've got Kai Kennedy in behind, I guess. A Burrow, would you put Burrow and Allen up front? They played at Allen, they didn't do great together. I personally, if that is the case, we have to force it, I'd go Oliver and Burrow up front. With Kennedy just off them. But then Ola, I think Ola's an impact player off the bench. I don't think Ola, even though he played well on Saturday, comes into contention for starting 11. I think off the bench, he's an absolute maverick. You saw it get a hand there when he came on as well. Just like, I turned to my mate and said, he could get a hat trick and get us back into the game here. Because you just don't know what he's going to do, the big man. But I think, it's going to be really interesting. I think you've got to, in the away leg, just calm it down. Just get it back to the same, because I think Airdrie are going to come out flying against us.
With that in mind then, John, the other question is, if it's other than the number 10 over, do you go for Max or Nizzy, or who do you put in there? Would you then, if you're saying you're going to go slightly cautious, if you're looking to hold the ball up front, do you put Gary Oliver as your 9 and then
drop Burrell?
Like Romain Burrell comes off the bench to replace him, and
do you know what?
Between Max and Nizzy for number 10. It's
not a bad shout. It's not a bad shot. I think Gary Oliver's been in decent form. I thought he made a big difference when he came on against Inverness, apart from the 2 chances he missed. And a game like that, you need experienced players when the pressure's on. It's not a bad shout to then start Oliver just up top on his own. The only problem with that is Gary Oliver's constant need to come and drop deep and gather the ball and bring a lot of players into the team. But it worked early in the season, so... No, it'll be interesting. It's going to be really interesting what team everyone eyes will be on at 6:30 to see what that team's going to be. So, yes, well, 2 massive games ahead of us, Lewis. You'll be there commentating as ever. I will be at Duran singing along.
Enjoy the gig.
Singing along to the Reflex while checking my phone constantly. Interesting times ahead. But I'll definitely be at the stadium on Saturday, where hopefully, let's just go and say, let's just pump them 3-0 on tomorrow, and then we'll come to the stadium and we'll beat them 3-0 there. When will that ever happen to Falkirk? We'll just cruise through something and we don't have any worries.
do you know what? I think if we can get away from the Excelsior, and Airdrie will be saying the same, they'll think they're home turf with guys like McGill, with guys like Gallagher, and the rate they're scoring, they're pretty confident. A couple of Airdrie fans I know said they're pretty confident they're going to score a couple of goals tomorrow. It's just, can they keep us out? So from my point of view, I'm kind of looking at it the other way, John. If we get away from the Excelsior, still on level terms,
yeah,
I think that's key. Level terms are better, and then take it back to the Falkirk Stadium. I'd be happy with that, because I think on home turf, one-off game, we can do it under that circumstance.
Yeah, I know. I'd tell you what, I'd rather be playing Alloa. I would certainly be a lot more
yes,
confident if it was
Alloa.
Hopefully Hamilton would have put out Airdrie, but yeah, listen, it's going to be tough no matter who we've got anyway. So here goes, playoffs, here we come. Thank you very much for listening to Falkirk Daft. And you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, vote on your player of the year. We'd love you to do that. You can buy merch on our Spreadshirt shop. You can do that merch at falkirkdaft.co.uk. And you've got, actually, I'm just looking at the time, you actually still have got time to get 15% off our merch until the 11th of May, so you can get the very popular dog bandana with 15% off. It is very popular. There's 2 dogs at least in Falkirk that are wearing a Falkirk Daft bandana, so I've still to spot them.
They both looked a bit rough, mate, let's be honest.
Oh my god, and in that note, we'll say goodbye to Lewis. And you look, George obviously says expect the unexpected, but we've got to get your catchphrase in, Lewis, to finalise Falkirk Daft for this week.
Well, expect the unexpected, and thanks for your time.
Well.